Hey, what's up? Let's do some math today. In this video, we're going to talk about order of operations. An order of operations is all about instructions about how to do some more complicated expressions. So it tells us what we want to start off with first and what we're going to do at the very end as the last thing. And so it's going to go from left to right like this through the acronym PEMDAS, where each one of these letters stands for some sort of operation. So we have parentheses is what the P stands for. It could also represent brackets like that. Exponents, so anything that's up here would be done next. Next we have M, which is multiplication, D is division, and then A is addition, and S is subtraction. Now, to complicate matters a little bit further here, let's go blue. These and these can be flipped in their order. So if we wanted to, we could do division, then multiplication, and subtraction, then addition. And so that's where we're going to get to the fine print here with this. So the first thing I want to say with the fine print is that M and D, one second, I'm going to catch this notification. Nope, all right, good. M and D can work left to right. So whatever you see on the left is what you do first. Then you work your way to the right. Same thing with addition and subtraction. You're going to work left to right. Now notice though, I have MD1, AS2. You have to do all the multiplication and division before you can do the addition and subtraction. And likewise, you have to do the parentheses, exponents before you can do any of the multiplication or division. Now I think order of operations is best learned by doing it. So let's do some examples and see what we can take from it. So this first one, I have the example of division before multiplication. And so this is a great example of, how are we supposed to do this? Because I bet if I asked a room of students what the answer is, I can get 2 to 3 different answers. And a couple of them would make good sense. If I asked you to explain why, everyone would be like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. However, it would be wrong though. So according to our order of operations, we're going to do multiplication and division, but we work left to right, whatever we see first. I see this division. So I'm going to do 48 divided by 8, which is 6, times that by 2, and then I do 12. Now, just to point it out there, some people could say, hey, let's do 48 divided by 16, and that's going to end up being 3. These are 2 very different answers. One of them is wrong, one of them is right. This is the right one, that's the wrong one. All right, now let's take a look at some other common mistakes that students make. Sometimes the more advanced, or the first operations are at the back end of the expression. Some students are going to see this and think, I have to do 16 divided by 2, and then I'm going to square that. That's not the case. What you're going to do is 2 squared first. So we'll have 16 divided by 4, which is 4. Now, if I wanted you to do 16 divided by 2 and square it, the way I should have written that would be parentheses 16 divided by 2 squared. Now that means I do this first, 8 squared, and then I get 64. All right? So again, order of operations helps us consistently get the right answer and follow a process. So now let's look at some more complicated examples. All right, so let's stick with purple, why not? Okay, so here, first thing I want to do, or when you're doing these problems, I'd highly recommend you write PEMDAS either on the top of your paper or at the beginning of each problem. That way it's a constant reminder. So we'll start with our parentheses, and I also take care of these. So I'll go -4 times 2 squared plus 8. Now again, this is where some students make mistakes. In the exponent stage, people are just really tempted to multiply that 4 and that 2. Don't do it, okay? What we have to do is just square the 2. The exponent is only going to that 2. So it's -4, and now it's going to be times 4 plus 8. And then now we can do our multiplication, -16 plus 8. Finally, end with some addition, and we have -8. Box it, walk away. Here, we have a lot of things going on. First of all, we have the whole addition subtraction thing where we see subtraction before we see addition. But we also have one of my favorite tricks to really make sure you're paying attention. I'm sneaking an operation that needs to be done first on the back end of the problem. So be careful. There's no parentheses, there's no exponents, there's no multiplication, but there is division. This needs to be done first, and we will not touch any of that. So we're just going to copy that down. Negative 20 minus 4 plus 12 divided by 6, which is 2. Now work left to right. Negative 20 minus 4, well, number line, negative 20, going subtract 4, we're going that way for negative 24, plus 2, so now we're going back this way, 2 spots, so that would be negative 22. So again, watch out. This is definitely one of my little favorite traps to employ in these kind of or to use in one of these problems, where I put operations that need to be done first on the back end. All right, now let's look at some fractions. So here's the thing with fractions. You would look at it and you're thinking, okay, this is the very last thing I'm going to do. But actually, it's one of the first things you're going to do, okay? Because, let's see here, with fractions, they essentially mean division. So another way we could think of this problem, let's go better color, is there's parentheses around our numerator and our denominator. And so we can think of this as 6 times 4 divided by 7 minus 2, all of that in parentheses, the numerator and the denominator. Now, if you want to, feel free to write it out like this, or just focus on those numerators and denominators. You can even kind of work with them at the same time. So here, 6 times 4, 24. 7 minus 2 is 5. This doesn't really clean up any further, so that would actually be our final answer. And you'd get the same thing here. 24, oops, not 64, saw the 6. 24 divided by 5. And then you just say, well, that's 24 over 5, and box it, walk away. Finally, let's look at a slightly more complicated one. So, same thing. Work with your numerator and denominator, and you can kind of do multiple things at the same time, as long as you're following the rules. So, what I'll do is at least take my time and go 4 squared plus, what's 8 minus 5? That'd be 3, squaring that. Now, you gotta be careful. The square is only going to this, not to everything else. All of that is over 2 times negative 6, which is going to be negative 12 plus 7. Now I'm going to continue to work with just my numerators and denominators separately. So I'll have 4 squared and 3 squared as 16 and 9. Here I'll combine negative 12 plus 7 is negative 5. 16 plus 9 is 25 over negative 5. Simply becomes negative 5. And that's my final answer. So, again, a couple big takeaways. Order of operations is all about instructions. How to get the same right answer time in and time out. It's this acronym. Highly recommend that you write it and put it on the top of your paper when you're doing these problems. And you just work from the left to the right. You have to remember that with multiplication and division, and addition and subtraction, that those can commute. You could do whatever one you see first is the one you do first. And that's, again, working left to right. Good luck with your practice, and let me know if you have any questions.